Chapter 6, Jesus has been a chef. The feeding of the 5,000 at the Sea of Galilee. Matthew, Bible chapter 14. Belief is a personal matter and Lentz has no intention of changing that. But he wants to show one possibility, or at least reveal what a chef might have cooked in such an explosive situation. Details about the feeding of the 5,000 can be found in old writings and biblical documents that have been handed down. Historical historiography has handed down what is said to have happened at the Sea of Galilee. It has long remained a legendary mystery how Jesus managed to feed 5,000 people, with just 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. The ancient scriptures describe a young boy being sent out to look for food. However, it turned out that all he could find were these 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. And it can be read that a miracle must have happened here at the Sea of Galilee. So here I want to believe in a miracle for a while. However, I have no evidence of such a miracle, but I'm happy to admit that I also have no evidence that it wasn't a miracle. Well, here we are going in circles like in a UN General Assembly. Let's ask Lentz. Chef Lentz quickly finds and quotes an old traditional kitchen rule that still works today. If more guests come than expected, you just have to stretch the soup a bit. It's that simple, so it's no wonder, was Jesus a cook? Who lengthened the soup a little? We find out here and now today. Lentz doesn't necessarily believe in miracles in the kitchen, but we have something similar in every good kitchen. The magic of problem solving is not necessarily a miracle, but something very similar. And now to the solution of this burning question. What was happened at the Sea of Galilee? When Jesus and his believer arrived on the far shore of the lake, they found 5,000 hungry followers there. So Jesus said a miracle has to come from above, or someone has to cook something else to eat. So a little boy was sent in search of food. This boy was running around desperate and a little hopeless. After a while he saw in a distance a woman by the seashore of the lake. And he realized that she sells seashells by the seashore. The shells she sells are seashells, I'm sure. So if she sells seashells on the seashore, then I'm sure she sells seashore shells. It was Michelle, and the boy was relieved because he knew her well. She came from his village. And the boy told her that he has to find food for the 5,000 at the Sea of Galilee. And he asks Michelle for help, but as we all know, Michelle sells only empty seashell. So the boy asked her, "Do you have anything else?" "Yes," she said, "I also have 2 medium-sized salmon in my boat, you're welcome to have them." Thanks for a good start, but that is not enough for 5,000. So Michelle and the boy contemplated for a while, and Michelle said, "We need a cook." She only could think of one. Her best friend Tom is a skilled cook. We should ask him if he has a recipe for our problem on hand. And that's how it happened. Tom was of course shocked for a second, but being a chef he just said briefly, "I don't know exactly how yet, but we'll find something for sure." As in every kitchen, there's no such thing as can't. I still have 5 loaves of bread and a few spices here, sack, let's go. Immediately Tom, Michelle, and the boy went back to the boat with the 2 fish in it. They pulled the boat through the grass to the camp of the 5,000. When they by Jesus, at the campsite arrived, Tom immediately gave instructions to make a fire under the aluminium boat. For him it was no longer a boat, but a large soup pot. Jesus noticed that there were still plenty of empty sea and crab shells in the boat. It's not a miracle, Jesus thought, but it's a good start. The shells were all empty, but Jesus said to Tom, "Roast them a little now." And I asked around if anyone had a bottle of French cognac, or a good brandy. And yes, Jesus said, the soup could also use a few bottles of dry white wine, a Chardonnay perhaps. Well, no miracle here either, and no surprise, because no one had a French cognac. But oh wonder, one had a good brandy. Tom quickly boiled everything up and Jesus said, "Let the soup simmer slowly for 22 minutes. Of course, the old fishing boat brought a wonderful flavor with the built-in fermented fish sauce. The boat, or rather the unusual soup pot, was big enough to hold all the ingredients and 2,500 liters of water. From the 2 fish and the bread, Tom quickly made up small aromatic fish balls to add to the soup. So now they had half a liter of the finest bouillabaisse, for each guest. Jesus was happy and thanked the cook for the soup in his evening prayer. He blessed Tom and baptized him Tom Rumford. And now fast forward. Later in history books it is found that Rumford's soup, also called economy soup, was an early effort in scientific nutrition. It was invented by Benjamin Thompson, Imperial Count of Rumford, in the year of 1795 and consumed in Munich and Greater Bavaria, where Rumford was employed as an advisor to Charles Theodore, Elector of Bavaria. Here you go. His soup was used as a ration for the poor in Bavarian workhouses and military workhouses, and even for prisoners. Count Rumford has been credited in many instances for establishing the first real soup kitchen. Today the Rumford soup is still cooked, however chefs these days have refined the soup a bit. The old traditional genius recipe is so resourceful and simple at the same time. Bon appétit and bless your meal. And yes, Jesus was a cook after all. Okay, that was yesterday. Today, the new generation of young chefs has forgotten most of the historical backgrounds. But that doesn't matter. It's okay too, says Lenz. You go with the times, or you go with time. And yet, the basic principle of making something out of very little is still used by young chefs to this day. And here is not a miracle but an insight how it goes today. You take a little spoon, don't laugh, some instant broth and a stick blender, ready. You don't know if this modern method is blessed by Jesus, but maybe believing in miracles will help us all. Okay, relax my friends. Lenz used a little irony here. He is using an example to explain the effects of simply copied actions on our thinking. We often copy actions and take on views from all sorts of idols and modern influencers. We tend to do this easily and in good faith. And yes, it doesn't always have to be wrong. However, if this is copied one-to-one, the critical thinking ability will become weak and tired. Too easy we believe in instant broth and blender. It becomes religion. And critical expertise and experience are the losers in this game. Here I quote the old peasant rule: know, understand, apply, transmit. Knowledge is simple, 1 and 1 is 2. So now you know. Or ask Google or Alexis and you'll know everything. The formula for water is H2O, you know that. But you haven't understood the formula yet. Understanding is another matter altogether and, like practical experience, this sort of understanding takes time. Google can tell you all the facts on planet Earth. However, Siri will fail to make you really understand. Really understanding knowing and plain knowledge, and experience and skills are very similar. Lenz asks to stop on the subject understanding for now, and goes back to the story. Once something has been understood in principle, it must also be applied. Existing skills and knowledge placed in the bottom drawer make no sense. One must do it. And the culmination of knowledge is but to work, when what is understood is transferred to other areas and leads to far-reaching problem solutions. Let's search for faith and error, a while longer at the Sea of Galilee. And work out and understand what is probable and possible. We want to separate miracle and faith and none believe from one another, wonder and wonderful, and I'm no longer surprised at what effects that circus on conscious planning may have. In many cases, planning is just the intelligent replacement of ordinary chance with the all too often probable error. Faith has played a major role in feeding the 5,000. Jesus believed in God, and he firmly believed that the 5,000 would get something to eat. Well, the boy didn't know if he would find anything to eat. But he had hope. Michelle had neither hope nor faith, but she genuinely and honestly wanted to help. And Tom's motivation wasn't based on faith, hope, or sheer helpfulness. Yes, of course, a little of all of that is at play, however, self-motivation, ambition and self-confidence are the driving force behind his actions. He can't help it and says, "I'll do it." Tom knows. "Yes, I can do that." So, what's going on here? Why like this and not otherwise? That is the title of the next chapter. Why so and not otherwise, please? But now please listen carefully. The four-step principle: believe, hope, help, and do. That's the only thing you have to bring under one roof or your own chef's hat. And Lentz explains why it is only like this, and not otherwise. Believing alone without hope is useless. Hope asks for help, but in the end someone has to do it. And this someone is you. It has to be done. Otherwise it won't work. That is why it is so and not otherwise. Millions of people go to work every day, Monday to Friday. All year around, and some go on for decades. They never ask, why so, and not otherwise. Okay, at this point everyone can and is allowed to say that's okay, of course, I know that. Or also one can say, no, that doesn't make any sense. Lentz says, okay. Yes, you are both correct. As long as you're real and honest, not to others or the world, but honest to yourself. If that is the case and all is happy under your roof. That's it. That's you. And that works, for a lucky you. More wondrous and wondrous in the next chapter. Chapter 7. Why so and not otherwise?